Welcome to Window Dressing, sirens and gossip rag goddesses of the new millennium. This week, I talk about America's sweetheart, pop princess Britney Spears. Writing about Britney Spears is an overwhelming task, given all the attention her story and the Free Britney movement have received in the last few years. It never seemed necessary for me to talk about a woman who has already spoken for herself after over a decade of not being able to. But when I decided to make the new millennium my topic for my third season, I realized it was necessary to talk about Brit. For me, the most meaningful cultural touchstone is her 2008 5150 and subsequent conservatorship. I was 5150 3 years later, obviously to much less fanfare and consequences that remained mostly private. But all the same, her experience was indicative of a larger issue women face when they become inconvenient or no longer willing to acquiesce to expectations. This week, I'm focusing on the time leading up to her rights being stripped by the men in her life. Specifically, her early career, which includes the one movie she did, the 2002 teen road movie Crossroads. I consider this to be a classic of girlhood. I also will discuss one of her early music videos that lays the groundwork for her real-life struggles. In part 2, I talk at length about the tabloid culture of the 2000s and the switch from print to small-time turned big-time muckraking gossip blogs like Perez Hilton's, including the press's role in laying the groundwork for Britney's conservatorship. America's pop princess had it just as rough as Great Britain's actual Princess Diana. Britney's single, Hit Me Baby One More Time, came out in 1998. Her album and the music video hit the following year. She was 16 and became an international sensation overnight, breaking records. By the year 2000, Britney was set to become a film star as well as a pop star. She was slated to star in the movie Crossroads, directed by Tamra Davis. The movie was filmed before 9/11. In terms of cultural products, it contained the last seeds of non-sexist innocence that existed before the culture shifted, or I should say regressed. Something happened after 9/11, where mainstream culture, even and perhaps especially fluff culture, took on a viciously ruckus and sexist bent, very much like the Reagan-era 80s, but with higher stakes. The fuck it attitude that nationalism combined with capitalism created seemed to be directed at women and people of color. War really brings out the rape culture in culture. Crossroads is a teen road movie with a girl pop soundtrack and a hot guy in a convertible. It's really sweet and very fun to watch. Britney plays Lucy, a sheltered Southern girl with an overbearing father who pushes her to perform to perfection. Her mother left them for the sunnier climes of Arizona and a new life when Lucy was small. On high school graduation night, 3 girls, former best friends separated by the hands of time and the halls of high school, come back together to dig up a time capsule they buried 8 years before. The discovery prompts a self-discovery quest to where else? California. The girls are best described by their prom dresses. Lucy wears a pale pink satin princess-cut sleeveless dress with a jewel-encrusted bodice and a high-ish square neckline. She wears it with a dainty but matching pink necklace and curled hair. Say what you will about the year 2000, but this transitional period between pink powder puff princess and conservative businesswoman is golden in my book. Kit, played by Zoe Saldana, wears a chicer but also pink, hot pink to be exact, slip dress. This is also princess cut, but shorter. It flares right above the knee in a subtle ode to a tulip. The spaghetti straps are more Kate Moss than Amanda Woodward. She looks stunning, barring the open-toed matching shoes, which I will never be on board with. Mimi, played by Orange is the New Black star Taryn Manning, is pregnant at her prom, so she wears a t-shirt and jeans. but she dons double hoop earrings, which make her trailer trash aesthetic shine. The car breaks down in a small town outside of New Orleans. The radiator is cracked. They enter a conveniently timed karaoke competition at Club Bayou to make the money to fix the car. This is where Britney's infamous cover of I Love Rock and Roll comes in. They perform and win. In Brit's 2023 memoir, The Woman in Me, she talks about listening to this song with Donatella Versace after Justin Timberlake and her broke up. It was during that trip to Italy to see Donatella that Britney wore the rainbow-jeweled dress that Camila Cabello recently wore as an ode to Brit, as is the current custom. They, of course, win the competition and the money, which they use in part to stay in a nicer hotel for the night. But before they leave the club, Britney is almost assaulted by a handsy patron whom Ben, the token hot guy, elbows in the face on her behalf. Apparently, chivalry was still making some last fleeting attempts at life in the early aughts. Ben skulks away like a wounded hero once they get to the hotel room, leaving the girls to their own devices. The girls have a sleepover that doesn't include sleep, but does include talk of eating disorders, dick, and eventually rape. You know, teenage girl stuff. Lucy starts the night wearing a black studded crop top that reads Freedom and the sparkly blue eyeshadow she performed in, embodying the quintessential American dream on screen. In the morning, she has replaced her Freedom crop top with a floral girly tank and pajama bottoms. The softer, more vulnerable outfit sets the stage for Mimi's story. She tells them about how she went to a frat party and accidentally got drunk. There was a guy who seemed sweet. He picked her up in his car when she couldn't walk. But then he raped her. She describes a detail about the color of the beer bottle he was drinking from, but refuses to name him. Mimi says, "It's no big deal. It happens to girls all the time." Lucy says, "Did you call the police?" Mimi says, "No, I'm from a trailer park, plus I got drunk and got in his car." Wouldn't it be fun to point to that last line as a misconception on Mimi's part? To say she would have been believed, or she would be believed now? But not even in the idyllic world of a teen road movie or the hindsight of 25 years of supposed progress is that true. As Lana Del Rey would say, this is what makes us girls, which coincidentally was a phrase that heavily informed the concept for Season 3. I challenge you to think of one girl or woman in your life who hasn't been raped or sexually assaulted at least once. I can't. The girls and Ben finally reach Arizona. They drop Lucy off at her long-lost mother's house. Lucy's surprise, "I'm your daughter," doesn't go over too well with her mother, who is played to perfection by Kim Cattrall. Lucy makes her way back with the gang, slightly worse for the wear and rain-soaked to boot. In a moment of cinematic license, it starts pouring rain in Arizona. Ben comforts Lucy. The next day, they are back on the road headed to sunny California, Los Angeles to be specific. When they arrive in LA, they check into the Malibu Motel on the ocean side of the PCH. They frolic on the beach, and in one of my favorite scenes in the movie, Britney says to Ben, what all California girls at heart say when they first arrive here. "Hey, what if I didn't go back?" Britney delivers this line with wonder from her heart. I feel the magic of when you become free in that line. In her character's case, from an oppressive father and a life that wasn't meant for her. It's like the beginning of the world when you first see the Pacific Ocean, and it's meaningful to me to see this wonder-filled trek treated with the reverence it deserves. Britney says in her memoir that she was very affected by this role. She compares it to method acting without realizing she was doing it. She said it turned her off from acting because it was so difficult for her to find herself again after the movie was done. I think she would have been a magnificent actress if she had been given the tools to separate herself from her role. That same advice would be true and applicable to her real life. If she had been supported instead of pushed, she would have been protected as opposed to becoming food for vultures. One role in particular she was offered that she didn't take because of her experience working on Crossroads was Roxy in the film adaptation of Chicago. She talked about wishing she had taken that opportunity. She said, "I would have gotten to kill a man and sing and dance while doing it." The Broadway play Chicago has a long history of casting formerly fallen women and misunderstood divas, the most recent of which was Pamela Anderson, but has also included Erica Jane, formerly Erica Girardi of Real Housewives fame, and Lisa Rinna of Melrose Place, Days of Our Lives, and Real Housewives fame. Mimi and Kit decide to go sightseeing, leaving Ben and Lucy to make love overlooking the Malibu coastline. Kit wants to surprise her boyfriend, who upon her arrival in LA refused to see her right away. She drags Mimi along with her on this errand. When they arrive, they find Kit's boyfriend shacked up with another girl. He is holding a beer in his hand, and Mimi is standing as far away from him as possible. Kit realizes that he is the one that raped Mimi, based on the color of the beer bottle and Mimi's discomfort. Kit confronts him about the rape, punches him. Mimi runs and falls down the stairs. The whole gang ends up at the hospital. Mimi loses the baby as a result of the fall. Lucy's dad comes to meet them in California and take them home. But in the cab ride to the airport, Lucy takes off her locket, the one that was in the time capsule that catapulted her on the adventure in the first place. She hands it to her daddy. She says, "Pop, I don't want to be like her," meaning her mother. He says, "Well, we will just get back home and everything will be back to normal, and you just wait and see." Lucy says, "Don't make me do what she did. Don't make me run. Just let me go, okay?" She gets out of the cab and runs into Ben's arms, who has been standing on the sidewalk watching her drive away. I love this moment because it demands her own autonomy while recognizing the lack of freedom her mother had. It acknowledges the complexity of her mother's absence, and for once in the history of time, it doesn't place all the blame on the woman. The movie ends with the girl's audition for the record label. Britt is performing "I'm Not a Girl, But Not Yet a Woman," wearing a bell-sleeved floral crop top with low-rised flare jeans. Her eye makeup is an ombre mermaid look with iridescent green and purple shadow. Her lips are glitter glossed, and her hair is the perfect shade of early 2000s golden blonde. She is transformed from a small-town southern girl to an LA woman right before our very eyes. From the sunny beaches of Malibu to the hills of Hollywood, Britney plays two roles in the music video for her song Lucky. A silver screen starlet named Lucky, and herself, a more grounded, regular girl. This is a meta music video about a girl trapped alone in what appears to be the perfect life of fame and glamour. Britney's portrayal of Lucky, a modern actress playing an Art Deco-era star, acts as a fractured version of her own fame. Her hair is styled like Veronica Lake's, predicting Britney's future 5150. Veronica Lake was diagnosed with schizophrenia at age 15. This is according to her stage mother, who also sued her as an adult for financial support. Schizophrenia usually becomes apparent in your mid-20s, not in your early teens. It seems a curious diagnosis, considering this is the exact age she arrived in Hollywood and was pushed to perform by her mother. Not to mention the likelihood of gender-based trauma that is extremely common, especially here in Hollywood. Just ask Britney Spears. I always find it difficult to believe a psych diagnosis that explains away quote-unquote difficult women who no longer agree to be actively tortured by society. Lake died penniless in 1973 at age 51 of acute hepatitis. In her 1969 memoir, Lake says, Nothing really hurts you except people and old age deterioration of the cells. And people can't do anything to curb the cell thing, so they really don't seem to serve much of a useful function at all. Britney captures her iconic peekaboo hair and the isolation of fame in this video. It is a shame she didn't do more acting, because she absolutely has the ability to embody a role. The video for Lucky premiered in the year 2000. The song was from her second album, Oops, I Did It Again. The director was Dave Meyers. I will be referring to the modern-day version of Britney as Modern Brit, and the actress, also Britney, playing an old Hollywood star, simply as Lucky. The video opens with a modern bob-haired Brit standing in front of a stage curtain. She says, "This is a story about a girl named Lucky." The curtain opens, and modern Brit is standing on a billboard platform in the sky. She is wearing a red tank top with delicate sequined detailing and white flared pants, a la Christina Aguilera's turquoise leather pants in the Genie in a Bottle video. This feels like a bit of a missed opportunity to combine red and turquoise. There are very few things I miss more than the color combination of red and turquoise, sometimes with a dash of zebra print. That was popular at this time. But her smoky eyes and cappuccino-glazed lips almost make up for it. I also happen to love billboards. It's where I get all of my news. When I left the country for the first time, it was the thing I missed the most about America. I live in the hills above the Sunset Strip, which has an incredibly high concentration of billboards. I find them as delightful as a Diet Coke in a can in terms of Americana. We leave the land of decorative advertisements and enter in an ornate Art Deco bedroom where Lucky, aka 40s glamour Brit, lays in her bed wearing a pale pink marabou feathered robe. With the previously mentioned Veronica Lake hair, barrel curled and sideswept. The room is so bright and beautiful it looks like a cartoon. There is a painting of the three muses that looks like stained glass above her round wooden headboard. Pale green, channel-backed round chairs sit in the middle of the room, and there are flowers placed precariously on every available surface. The walls are a deep blue with silver jacquard print wallpaper. There is a rose and cream-colored rug over massive marble tile floors that are a slightly deeper shade of the blue than the walls. The ceiling is painted pale peachy pink that, when coupled with the warm glow of the chandeliers, cast a Marilyn Monroe-inspired light. Monroe used to have all her dressing room walls painted peach because of the quality of light the color cast. A bouquet of more flowers, roses the size of hands, and gladiolas is delivered to Lucky. Modern Brit has undergone another costume change. She ditched the red and white outfit in favor of a party pink one-shoulder gown worn over jeans, as was the custom in the early 2000s. She is sitting atop a star in the sky, evoking MGM's old slogan, "We have more stars in the sky." The Hollywood sign is in the background as she sprinkles glitter over the city. Lucky stands on her balcony looking up at the sky, still dressed in her marabou feathered pink dressing gown, wearing dramatic drip jewels on her ears and neck. Her makeup is flawless. She wears shimmering gray-blue shadow over her entire lid and a classic mauve lip. She tops the look off with a beauty mark on her right side and extended eyebrows that create more space for the eyeshadow to illuminate. My biggest question is if Britney filmed the Lucky parts of this video before she cut her hair into a bob, or is the Veronica Lake hair a wig? It really doesn't look like a wig. Modern Brit reaches out to touch Lucky, but stops short. Modern Brit looks directly into the camera, breaking the fourth wall. Lucky sits at a round mirrored vanity table, holding a second handheld mirror up, creating two reflections. I warned you, this video is meta. We can talk about the magic of mirrors and how reflective glass has a long history in folklore, fairy tales, and magical practices. A history that has been perverted by modernity, or more specifically, the patriarchy. But I think it's enough to say that these moments of reflection happen when she is literally looking at herself. The reflection created by the mirror she holds in her hand is the one that matters. It captures the woman and the glamour. It's not a projection, it's an actual reflection. A man knocks at the door and sweeps her off her feet in a romantic kiss. That is when the fantasy falls apart. Surprise, surprise, the handsome prince knocks the tower down. The video within a video calls cut, and Lucky is revealed to be a modern actress playing an old Hollywood star. She walks off set to her real-life dressing table. Besides the frenetic energy of makeup and hair people pulling on her, the setup isn't that different than the deco vanity table. She has the same handheld mirror in her hand from before, but discards it when she gets a cell phone call. Modern-day Brit picks up the mirror and cradles it in her arms as if it is imbued with magical powers, which it is. In the next scene, Lucky is on the red carpet, wearing a silver sequined gown, holding an Oscar as glitter rains down on her from the sky. When she gets into her limousine, she finds the discarded handheld mirror. It has been returned to her by modern Brit. Lucky locates and locks eyes with her in the sea of fans behind the velvet ropes. Given the gift of reclaiming her accurate reflection, she returns to her tear-stained bed, facing the truth of her loneliness. The video ends with the curtains closing on billboard Brit and tear-stained Lucky. I didn't expect to have so much to say about this music video. It's the one I always remembered the most fondly from Britney's early career. And I know she has a ton of iconic music videos, but this one always stuck with me because of the Veronica Lake connection and also the connection to place. It is clearly a cliched concept, but the stories that play out over and over again in a specific place are worth noting. There was always something to be learned from them. It puts your life into context to understand the history of the ground you're standing on. I am a big believer in connection to place. I think it's the single most important factor in finding your path. The next piece of Britney cultural product I will discuss is the short-lived 2004/2005 reality show Britney and Kevin Chaotic. This is a documentary turned reality show that started as a tour diary similar to Madonna's Truth or Dare and morphed into a love story/reality show. It is filmed on a handheld camera and is more a honeymoon video in the style of Pam and Tommy, but without the sex on camera, than a tour diary. The couple got married on the show on October 6, 2004. The ceremony is captured on film. The wedding was a surprise to even their guests. Cloak and dagger antics had become necessary at the time because of the press and the growing paparazzi interest in all things Britney. Britney and Justin Timberlake broke up in March of 2002. They had known each other since their early days on the Mickey Mouse Club as children, along with Christina Aguilera and Ryan Gosling. They had been the Hollywood it couple for some time. The pop prince and princess earned that title by wearing matching outfits a la Leonard Cohen and Marianne Illen. I'm thinking specifically of their denim-on-denim look from the 2001 American Music Awards. Britney met Kevin Federline, K-Fed as he was known in the tabloids, in July of 2004. Her breakup with Justin was a lesson in public slut-shaming if I have ever seen one. Justin basically slapped her with a scarlet letter that was so mean-spirited it silenced her about the relationship for over a decade. His song and video, Cry Me a River, depicted Brit's doppelganger cheating on him and leaving him out in the literal cold. It's an early 2000s November rain, except instead of predicting model girlfriend Stephanie Seymour's death, it digs a grave for Britney. She talks a lot in her memoir about what it was like to have the narrative completely stolen from her during and after her breakup. She says of Cry Me a River, "Getting revenge on women for perceived disrespect was all the rage at the time. She was described in the press as a harlot that broke the heart of America's golden boy. She used this experience as a litmus test for Kevin in an early episode of Britney and Kevin Chaotic. She coyly asks him about his thoughts on Eminem, a man who is notoriously pro tearing down wives and mothers. Kevin says that he thinks Eminem is a genius. Britney is visibly upset and says so, but without pointing out the obvious parallels between what Eminem has done to his wife Kim and what Justin did to her. I am pretty confident that Kevin did not make the connection or get the depth of the question, but his answer was still a red flag that went ignored. We all do this, especially in the falling in love phase. We are almost trained to look the other way about issues that are deeply important to us. When I really consider some of the things I have accepted in romantic dynamics that turned my stomach then and now, I feel deeply ashamed. That's part of the problem. Men have the ability to betray, but somehow their betrayal generates shame in us. Shame that they are unwilling or unable to feel themselves. Women end up being the vessel for men's failures far too often. In general, Britney comes off as a girl in love. It is borderline softcore porn the way she glows and gushes about their sex life. It's sweet and very sad. Kevin quickly gets wrapped up in his own proximity to fame and ditches Brit with their eventual children, while he runs around becoming a white rapper, further aligning himself with Eminem. Kevin is afforded much less fanfare in his pursuit of misogyny than Eminem. Britney describes the love between her and Kevin as something neither of them had any control over. She says, "It's instant, and it takes over your whole body." For me, love has always felt like something that happens to you, a fate that befalls you like a curse. I think there are several reasons I am guessing a lot of other women and girls experience it like that. The most obvious is romanticism, which borders on Gothic fairy tales. The classic, inexorable link between love and tragedy seems to be baked into women's experiences with love. The other, more modern and less fantastical, but equally as visceral, is the unbridgeable gap in equality and power between the sexes. I think it goes without saying, but just in case, I am speaking strictly of male-female dynamics here. I can't speak to an experience that is not mine, and I don't intend to try. I truly don't believe that love between a man and a woman is safe. I don't think most men are safe, either because of active hatred for women, or more often, passive privilege built on generations of the degradation of women. Even the quote-unquote woke men who claim they are feminists and feign disgust with the more obvious forms of sexism can never be truly tested because society is built to serve them, not us. They want credit just for saying they are different, but very rarely do the work to be so. I am sure there are exceptions. I most certainly know gay men whom I love and love me, and even some straight ones. But the minute a romantic partnership enters into it, the inequity can't be denied. All of this is a bit like the endemic nature of racism. As Americans, racism is taught to us subliminally since birth. We have to actively undo it. If you live in culture, you have to work to examine your belief systems, where they stem from, and what is intrinsic to you. It's a practice. Sexism is much the same. I wish I had had Julia Fox's advice when I was younger. I think Britney would have benefited from it too. In a 2022 interview on the brilliant but short-lived sketch comedy show Z-Way, Julia Fox gives her best advice on how to deal with being a woman in modern times. She says, "We have to stick together and reclaim our power, and stop letting men use us, control us, coerce us. Even if they are friendly or nice, it doesn't matter. They have a hidden agenda. And you need to be working on yourself, getting your money, suck a dick if you have to, do whatever to be independent. Do it. But don't ever catch feelings. That will derail the whole thing, and you'll have to start from scratch. So it's better to just not even date." I will leave you this week with that brilliant Julia Fox quote. Next time, on part 2 of Britney Spears, I get into her career post-K-Fed, the paparazzi, her album Blackout, and her quote-unquote meltdown. The next episode will air on January 4th, 2025, on the anniversary of Britney's January 4th, 2008 5150, which will be discussed at length. Thank you for listening to Window Dressing, Sirens, and Gossip Rag Goddesses of the New Millennium. Please rate and review this podcast wherever you are listening, and follow me on Instagram at Window Dressing Podcast for more content. I'm Madeline Jane Auble.